Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast. I am, of course, your host, Stuart, and tonight we are back on the addiction recovery subject. My guest, Zoe, has joined me. Before I ask Zoe to introduce herself, I will get the admin out of the way. If you would be so kind as to like, rate, review this podcast. If you are watching us on YouTube, please like the individual video, hit that subscribe button and share away. On your podcast subscriber, if you scroll below the episodes, it will allow you to leave a 5-star review and write a written review if you'd be so kind. Don't forget, we have a Buy Me a Coffee page set up. If anyone would like to donate and support, it's just find us at HWOM on www.buymeacoffee.com. And finally, my mum is still walking all over cancer for March. She's walking 10,000 steps a day to hopefully kick cancer's arse. We sadly know cancer affects 1 in 2 people. That is the awful statistic. Enough of that. Let's get on to my guest. Zoe, good evening. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Yeah,
Excellent.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks, Stuart.
Oh no, thank you so much. And it's a bit of a funny story that you've come on because I emailed a sort of a mutual friend of ours because I mistakenly got the impression from a Facebook status she wrote a few months ago that she'd sort of adopted a life of sobriety. And she messaged me straight back and she said, I haven't, but I have a friend who has. And that's why we're talking tonight. So if you could just very briefly introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, if you'd be so kind. And then we'll get into your story of alcoholism and your recovery from it.
Right, yeah, thank you. So I'm Zoe and I'm an alcoholic. I'm used to introducing myself as that nowadays, unfortunately, but obviously it's got its plus sides as well. I'm from Leeds in the UK, and I've been in recovery for about 3 years now. So I came in 2019, January 2019.
Fantastic.
I've not been sober that long. I picked up my 18-month chip actually this week.
Oh, congratulations. I mean, any chip is fantastic, but 18 months is absolutely amazing. That must have felt like a huge achievement. I mean, every day is a huge achievement, isn't it? But 18 months is a significant time frame.
It is, yeah. After I've had 18 months of sort of relapsing and thinking I couldn't like a normal person. And then obviously going out testing it and realizing that actually I was still an alcoholic. And to then get to a point of 18 months of being sober, it's like, yeah, it's beyond my wildest dreams, really.
Wow. Sadly for us as addicts, we all come with a bit of a backstory. You know, this podcast is going to be a bit in reverse, isn't it? We'll probably talk about the bad times before we get back to the wonderful 18 months you've just sort of shared with us. So we've been exchanging text messages and the odd email for a couple of months now, Zoe. So I've got some notes in front of me. You supplied me with a very open and honest email that I've made some notes from. So I'm gonna sort of guide you through your story somewhat, but obviously that will involve you talking a lot more than me. The listeners will be very pleased to hear that. So you, growing up, Zoe, you were exposed to alcohol fairly regularly in your life. You described your dad as a daily drinker. Could you expand on that a little bit for us and maybe how that formed your early opinions of alcohol, your early experiences with alcohol?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, my dad still is a daily drinker now. But he doesn't drink until 5 o'clock. It used to be 4 o'clock, and now it's 5. My mum set that time for him. So because he can drink at 5 o'clock, it's controlled drinking for my dad. You know, he started off years and years ago having 2 cans a day, and then it was 4 cans a day, and now he drinks 8 cans a day minimum. But that's normal, you know, and that's fine for him. It's, you know, his life is manageable. So, but yeah, as a kid, obviously he drank. My mum never drank. My mum's never been interested in drink really. A handful of times I've ever seen my mum tipsy, you know. But my dad always liked to have a drink, and if we went out on days out, we went to Ingleton Falls, I remember, every year. And even walking around the waterfalls, you know, on this 8-mile walk, my dad would have to have a couple of cans with him and sort of, drink on the way around and drink whenever we stopped. And we'd have to always, we went out for a day, we went camping, we'd always go to the pub, that was the main thing really of the day. We'd end up in the pub. And if my dad comes to my house now, he has 2 cans in his pocket, and the kids know him, grandkids know him as Grandad Carling. So it's always been there. But I mean, there has been times that my dad had struggled with it, and that's his story, that's his life. But as a child growing up, I knew there was some issues because there was he behaved in ways that he wouldn't behave when he was sober, you know. But one of my earliest memories of alcohol, when I've since I've been in recovery and I've thought back, things that I thought might have actually planted some kind of seed or made me think differently about alcohol, was when my sister got taken into hospital. So I'm 9 years older than my sister. So I'll have been about 11, my sister was 2, taken into hospital, really bad breathing problems. And I can remember my mum going in the ambulance and my dad being in the kitchen and being stood at the back door crying. And he just downed a can. And then I'm off out. And he went to club. And we lived around the corner from a working men's club, and that's where he went sort of daily. Yeah. Not daily, he didn't go daily. He'd go a few times a week, He was a window cleaner, so he'd work sort of 9 till 11:30, and then he'd be in club for 12, with a few quid that he collected on his window round. And that's where we went on that day. And I can remember being upset, I didn't know what was going on with my sister, and I had a younger brother that I was looking after, and we didn't know what was happening with her. We were worried for her, and my dad just went and did that. And I know now that was his way of coping. Yeah. That was his crutch. And I love my dad to bits, I absolutely do. And I understand him. Since I've been in recovery, I definitely understand him more and why he has drank the way he has. I'd say his drinking's a lot more controlled nowadays. And and that's good.
And
but I don't think it left an impression.
Definitely. And like I said, we're like you said, your dad's story is his story, and people might wonder, why I've potentially sort of started this podcast with that. But I mean, I would suggest that sort of the daily consumption of alcohol was normalized to you at probably an age before you even realized it was forming or it was normalizing yourself. So you've grown up with your dad, or in a household, let's say, where alcohol is readily consumed by the grown-ups. But you yourself, much like all of us, I'd say in the UK, sort of had some experiences of alcohol, certainly under the age of 18. And I think you said so probably the age of 14, you had a drink, but I was reasonably surprised to read that you sort of remember that you experienced a blackout. You didn't realize it was a blackout, but at the age of 15. So you probably can't remember all that much. That's the nature of a blackout. But was that did you set out to get drunk that day? Do you recall that, or accidentally consumed a bit much? Or
what was strange about that? I'd gone out with some friends. At that age, I was hanging about with people that were older than me. Okay. And we'd gone out to a club. In fact, we'd gone to a pub, and she decided she wanted to go a different way. She wanted to go home. She was into other substances, shall we say? And I'd not been exposed to them at that point. And I wanted to carry on drinking. I wanted to go out. Yeah. And at the age of 15, I went to a nightclub on my own in Bridlington. On my own in Bridlington. This is miles away from my home. Never been to this place before. Right. And we'd gone away with her parents. So I went to the nightclub, and I can remember, I cringe now to think in the position I put myself in, but I can remember being on the dance floor, trying to dance next to people so that I didn't look like I was on my own. Of course I was. But the more I drank, the easier that was to fit in with people, more confidence, just going up and dancing with people. So I can remember being in the nightclub. I can't remember getting home. And then the next day, everybody sort of being mad at me and saying that I'd come home in a state, and I'd been sick all over the bathroom, and I'd sort of made a scene, and I couldn't remember any, and I thought they were lying. I honestly thought they were lying. And I thought they'd made it up. And then it wasn't until 3 years later that I did a similar thing on my birthday, on my 18th birthday. Someone found me. Apparently I was conscious. I was talking, and they found me and put me to bed. And I don't remember any of that either, you know, and it was a very similar thing.
So that sort of experience at 15, you know, hot-footing it down to the nightclub on your own, away from home, away from your parents, obviously being supervised by somebody else's parents. That those years between 15 and the 18th birthday you just described, was the drinking sporadic through then, you know, or was drinking a regular thing sort of between that age of 15 and 18?
I think I drank like most of my friends.
Yeah.
You know, at that age, we were experimenting. We were going out to nightclubs on a weekend and getting in where we could, you know.
Okay.
It was a bit easier in them days. You didn't have to take ID. So we'd go to a nightclub every other week if we could afford it.
Okay,
And I do think I think the difference that I saw in myself then is that I didn't drink the same as my friends. I didn't drink the same drinks.
Yeah.
So my friends would drink half a lager. I could never drink half a lager. And at 15, I was drinking Southern Comfort.
Wow.
Which is, you know, it's an old man's drink, really. You know, that's how I see it now. And then when I was really sick on Southern Comfort, I mean, I can't stand the smell of it now. Even now, since then. But I drank what was called long vodkas.
Right.
That had Angostura bitter in.
Okay, yeah.
And so it was more expensive than what my friends were drinking, but I couldn't drink cider and lager. I was on spirits. Spirits, and that's the difference, I think.
So yeah, so would you say, sort of come the end of a night out, however long you'd been out, would you often find yourself potentially a bit in a more worse state than your friends who've been on the half lagers and you've been on the sort of the Southern Comforts or the long vodkas all night? Were you, or had they caught you up anyway, you all found yourselves rolling around, or do you remember standing out potentially for your drunkenness amongst your group of friends?
I didn't stand out for my drunkenness. I stood out for my behaviour.
Okay,
so
that's
my behaviour
interesting.
when I'd had a drink, my behaviour was different to my friends. Definitely dropped my inhibitions. I see myself now. I recognise myself as being an attention seeker. You know, I had to do things that got me attention, whether that be dancing on tables or just acting stupid in general, really.
Yeah.
But that, you know, I was the one that had a story to tell afterwards. And I was the one that people would talk about afterwards. Oh, you never guess what Zoe did, you know.
Yeah.
And that was all through drink, you know, that bravado that I got and that confidence that I got through drink was more amplified, more than my friends, I'd say.
And did you enjoy that almost? Because I know for many years I was almost played the court jester really on nights out, and I used to enjoy sort of hearing the next week what, you know, I remembered quite a lot of what I'd been up to, but I used to quite enjoy people retelling stories of my drunkard behavior. Were you similar, or were you a bit more head in hands? Oh no, what have I done? Let's try not to go there again.
I think I was definitely loving the attention. You know, I did up to a point. I would say through my definitely that time, it was all about going as far as I could and being as wild as I could, and then getting all the attention and talking about the next day and phoning my friends. Never guess what I did last night, and all the attention being on me. But then as the consequences got worse and worse throughout my, you know, later years of drinking, obviously then that changed, because then it was, you know, four-headed horseman, you know, terror, bewilderment, and what have I done, you know?
Yeah.
I can't do
and you
again.
had as we grow older, our responsibilities it might not be in the form of children or relationships, but you know, we tend to have jobs by, you know, once we've left school, and then we tend to, you know, have bills to pay, don't we, even if it's sort of sharing somewhere with your friends. So yeah, that responsibility, even if it's only in a small amount, the consequences of the nights out, they hold a little bit more, or there's more to be lost, isn't there, than just a bit of shame amongst your social group.
That's it. I mean, I think that you know, my drinking, you said between 15 and 18. I was pregnant at 20.
Okay.
And then, so the drinking and the sort of going out to clubs and things that I'd done then came to an end, you know, and I think that then I just went on to just binge drink, you know, when I went out, and
Yeah.
there were consequences to that, and it has affected my life. But yeah, there were more, you know, more responsibilities, and I could put down the drink. I didn't drink at home or anything, you know.
Yeah.
Sort of prided myself on that.
Yeah, and that's, you sort of said, you know, in the notes I've got here that you didn't drink at home, but that kind of changed sort of at a time. You sort of had a bottle of aftershock. Maybe you'd brought it back from a holiday, I think, and you did actually what I did. I think it's, I believe, where my alcoholism started. I started having a drink after work daily to take the edge off. And you've written, you know, in the notes you sent me, to take the edge off. You know, the baby had settled. I think our time frames were different. I used to come home from, I finish work early. I work on the golf course, so I'm home by 1:30, 2 o'clock each day, and my wife and my daughter weren't getting home till 5:30. You know, you're in your notes, you sort of talk about the baby had sort of gone to bed, and you sort of around 10 o'clock in the evening might have an aftershock or something to settle the nerves or to take the edge off the day, you know, the work day, and putting the baby. It, for me, that just took off, and I didn't realize what was happening. 18 months had gone by and I'd been drinking vodka daily. But for you, do you remember sort of that feeling, you sort of taking the edge off the day, and then was it the next day the brain was reminding you, you know, perhaps I need to do that, or I want to do that? Do you remember experiencing that, Zoe?
I think that with the aftershock, I've got 3 children, and that was with my first child. So I was in early 20s, and that bottle of aftershock, I remember it so clearly because it was out of character. I used to work till 10 o'clock, and I got home, and that bottle that we brought back, I can remember going and just having 1 or 2 shots, and that feeling where your shoulders relax, you know, getting that feeling. But once that bottle had gone, I don't remember doing that with any other alcohol.
Okay.
You know, it came and it went, and then you know, me and my husband separated, and I'd had another baby, and my drinking, you know, I didn't drink for 3 months.
Okay.
To be honest, I didn't drink for 3 months because I'd when I separated from my first husband, my drinking put me in a pretty bad frame of mind.
Yeah.
And you know, I had thoughts that weren't like me.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to stop drinking, and I did. I gave up drinking for 3 months, met a new partner. So this was approaching sort of my 30th birthday, really. The thing that I do remember is that close to my 30th birthday, which is when I was getting into that relationship, I would have 1 glass of wine a night, because at that time I was obsessed with the gym.
Okay.
Now I have had obsessions. This is where my alcoholism, I think, has laid dormant, because I've been able to replace the alcohol with something else. So I had an obsession with the gym. So I just drank 1 glass of wine a night. And then I remember going on holiday to Egypt and discovering gin. And, you know, the waiter had recognised me, and it'd be, gin, and it'd be 11 o'clock in the morning, you know.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And then it was Long Island iced teas, and I'd drink all day at the pool, fall asleep at the pool, wake up, get ready, drink at night, and then and that was it for 7 days. And I do remember coming home from that holiday, and then fast forward 12 months, and 12 months later thinking, I think I've drunk gin every day since that holiday.
Well,
And that was a thought, you know, of, wow, what's happened, you know.
Where's a year gone? I've got something that, I mean, I think it's so common for anyone probably who experiences alcoholism or struggles with alcohol consumption. But I've just got it highlighted here, and you sort of, it's just before you mentioned the gin story in your notes, but you said, I remember not liking the taste, but loving the effect.
Mm.
And I think so many people listening to this podcast will just resonate. I mean, you could put that on a t-shirt. That could be the podcast. That could be the title for this podcast. But that's something I sort of want to sort of get into a little bit, Zoe, because people like me and yourself, we don't like the taste, but the effect it has, you just mentioned, and I'm so many similarities with me, that you take that drink and your shoulders relax. I remember for me, it was more, my shoulders would relax and I would sink into the sofa, and everything would melt away. For the first week or two that I was sort of drinking vodka when I came in from work, I'd feel like I'd be in that relaxed state for up to 90 minutes sometimes. But I think the point I'm trying to make is, we'll do daft things, won't we? And I'll ask you to explain. Sort of, it's almost comical. It sounds daft to say, but you'd hold your nose to get alcohol into you, and people who don't have a drinking problem listening to this podcast, they'll struggle to get their brain around that, won't they?
Yeah. I mean, I remember first doing that when I was 15, and I can remember being at someone's house, and I'd had an argument. I'd had an argument with a boy, actually, and I went into the kitchen, and it was at his mum's house, and found a bottle of gin, and didn't like the smell of it. Didn't like the taste of it, but I wanted something to make me feel better. And I remember that as clear as day. I can remember holding my nose and drinking as much as I could, and then being sick, shortly afterwards. So that isn't normal behaviour,
No.
at 15 years old, trying to get that. But I recognise it now in recovery, that's part of the disease that I suffer from. Later on at the back end, so I'd started drinking sort of from my 30s, early 30s. And at the very back end of my drinking career, I'd drink vodka neat from the bottle and hold my nose. And just a few weeks before I came into recovery, I'd drink wine because that'd give a good effect, not because I like the taste of it, because I was drinking Henry Weston's because it was the strongest cider I could get my hands on.
Yeah, it was my best friend for a few years.
Yeah, none of this fruit cider,
No,
4
no.
odd. It's got to be in the 8s. So I can remember drinking that, and then and gin, I'd have to put triple, at least triple, and then it'd be sort of more gin than there was tonic, and then having vodka. And I can remember putting vodka under the bed, and this was literally a couple of weeks before I reached out to my mum, and I drank in those last couple of months, maybe 6 weeks even, that's how quick it was. I drank to what I'd call oblivion, and I'd drink so much that my body couldn't move,
Wow.
And I'd be laid on the sofa at night, and I'd have drank, and my husband would have gone to bed. And I do remember, not many occasions, but maybe one or two, where I couldn't physically walk up the steps to bed.
Yeah.
And putting a bottle of vodka under the bed one night, and this was close to Christmas 2018. And I knew that because I drank so much, what had happened is I'd go into a deep sleep for a couple of hours, but then I'd wake up and I'd be awake.
Yeah.
But I knew that by drinking it put me to sleep. So I woke up, and then holding my nose, drink the vodka, and then that feeling again, and then going back to sleep. And then I knew that was a problem then, people, my friends don't drink like that. They don't need that effect. And that's when I sent my mum a text message saying,
yeah. And that behavior is, as you said, it is not normal behavior, but it is when addicts get to the point where, sadly, we're beyond rational thinking. It's not, we are picking up the bottle and taking the lid off. We are choosing to consume that, the vodka in the middle of the night that we've got stored under the bed, but it's not really us choosing to do it, is it, Zoe? It's and someone watching this might say, well, it is you, of course it's you, but it's not. That is the disease that Zoe talks about. when you're at that point, you need, well, you reached out, Zoe. I don't think my mum found me in a state where I was, my lying couldn't hold up anymore. I was being so physically violently sick that I needed medical attention. I still tried to fight it, and when my mum went to visit the doctors, so she left the house for 10 minutes and I was spewing up blood one second and trying to drink vodka the next. 2 hours later, fortunately in hospital, I had that moment where, with my middle brother sat next to me in a cubicle, where I just said, I am tired of this. But that was a toss of a coin, really. I mean, 5 minutes before that, I'd been explaining to the doctor that I really don't drink much, and I've been really cutting back on my alcohol consumption, which is mad, isn't it? So you've sort of just explained very openly and honestly, Zoe, the point at which or everything that got you to the point that you reached out to your mum. I think we've covered everything wonderfully, and you've been very honest there. So if you could sort of talk us through the initial stages. You've reached out to your mum. Have you said to her, I need help, I've got a drink problem? Did you let it all off your chest, or did you drip feed her sort of information? I mean, with me, I just, once I opened my mouth, I opened the floodgates. But how did you go about it?
It was Christmas Eve, 2018, and I'd crawled into bed, and there were bottles. I remember there was empty bottles under the bed. I'd sort of hidden them up the top, and I was conscious that they were there, and I can remember thinking, this isn't right. And I texted my mum saying, I think I'm an alcoholic, and I don't know what time this was. It'll have been late, and there was no reply. And then the next morning, waking up Christmas morning, thinking, in fact, no, I deleted the message first. So I'd sent the message, but because I was so drunk, I thought that if I deleted it from my phone, that it'd delete it from her phone as well. So on Christmas Day, I woke up thinking, oh no, what have I done? And then my mum phoned me and saying, do we need to talk? And I'm like, no, honestly, it's all right. I'd had too much to drink, but I'm okay. Yeah. Straight away I was on the defensive and in denial again. But then on Boxing Day, my mum and dad came to my house. I drank quite a lot, and I got into a bit of a state. And when my husband had gone to bed, I just broke down and I just said, I'm an alcoholic. I can't stop drinking, and I'm drinking. And then when I started explaining things, they could see that there was a problem. They joked up until then. I had the nickname Audrey Roberts, because I'd go from work to my sister's house, and my parents would sometimes be there, and the first thing I'd do is go in and pour myself a gin. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just having one. And then obviously I'd go home and have a lot more. Yeah. But they'd say, oh, Audrey's here, and that was that. But once I explained it, they knew. And then that was it. I was resolved. Because I told my parents, I thought, I can stop now. They'll help me and I'll be able to stop. So I went to go and stay at my mum and dad's for a few days. And when I was there, I was in a bit of a state. I slept a lot when I was there, and I wasn't physically dependent on alcohol. Okay. That wasn't my story. Yeah. So and luckily I wasn't. But I'd gone to stay, and a couple of days of sleep and things. I can remember my dad saying to me, "Do you want some mulled wine?" Like, no, Dad, this mulled wine's got alcohol in. And he's like, "But it's only mulled wine." My mum's like, "Tony, she can't drink anything." And I came home on New Year's Eve and promised Mum and Dad I wasn't going to drink. That was it. I was done. And it was going to be my birthday on New Year's Day. And I got home, and my husband said, "We've got that really nice bottle of champagne from when we got married, and it's New Year's Eve. Shall we drink it?" That's all I needed. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah. I make my own decisions. I don't have a choice over alcohol. I do know that. But it wasn't him feeding me, the alcohol. But anyway, that was all I needed. Yeah, let's have it.
Yeah.
I'll get a couple more bottles just in case. Yeah, go and get a couple more bottles. I think he went and got a couple of bottles of wine. Anyway, that night we drank all that, and he went to bed, and I did what I did, and I drank. But on that particular occasion, I raided the medicine cabinet as well, and that didn't work out well for me. So on New Year's Day, I was broken, and I was at that point of, right, now I need help, and I phoned my mum and my sister and told them what I'd done, and they were just like, you were going to stop drinking, what have you done? You've only been home a day and you've done this. And I couldn't tell them why. I couldn't explain why I'd done it. I'd just done it. I thought I was going to just have a bit,
Yeah, you didn't know yourself, you knew yourself. You couldn't have known why you did it. I mean, it was the addiction, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you've reached out a couple of times, haven't you? You've reached out on sort of Christmas Day, and then a week later.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come about the recovery program that you're sort of still using today, Zoe?
Yeah, so New Year's Day, I looked up AA, I looked up Alcoholics Anonymous online, and I got I put my email in, and then somebody phoned me. They didn't phone me that day. It might have been a day too later, but I can remember my first meeting was the 6th of January, and that was 2019. Okay. And I went to a meeting. I went to a meeting on my own, and I don't know why, but I do know why. I do know why. It's because of preconceived ideas and stereotypes. And I went to the meeting in jogging bottoms and a t-shirt because I thought that everybody in there was going to be dressed like tramps, and and still carrying things in paper bottles. I really thought that was going to be what it was, and I got such a shock when I got there. Really, and it was a nice shock, a really nice shock.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I used AA for a year. I mean, you're sort of talking about the 6th of January 2019. My first AA meeting was Boxing Day 2017. So throughout sort of 2018, I attended AA regularly 3 times a week, but 4 times some weeks. But they are, it's some of the most welcoming experiences of my life, and some of the, I won't say happy, but to be somewhere in a room with people who are all content and happy in their recovery. So we AA is Alcoholics Anonymous, but we obviously not going to talk about locations or people that you attend meetings with, but would you be able to sort of talk us through what AA has done for you, or what AA offer has done for you in your recovery? I know you sort of mentioned that it hasn't been plain sailing, and there has been a few stumbles along the way. I think that's probably fair to say, is it, Zoe? So talk us through that. But obviously you're now 18 months sober. So even though you started this journey sort of nearly 3 years ago, you're now 18 months sober. When you had a stumble, it didn't send you back down the road of alcoholism, did it? Although we are alcoholics, it didn't send you back that road of continuous drinking. So talk to us, if you could, about some of the things maybe that you've learned within the program that's allowed you to now hit 18 months, Zoe.
Well, when I obviously went to AA, I knew straight away that that's where I needed to be. The first meeting that I went to, there was someone doing a main share, and I can't remember, to be honest, whether it was a man or a woman, but I remember really clearly there were 2 ladies sat behind me, and they got me straight away and said, keep coming back, and listen for the similarities and not the differences. And that's what I did with that main share. I listened, and most of the things that person said. I mean, I've heard so many shares, and every share that I've heard at every meeting, there has been something that has resonated with me, something that I've thought, I did that, or I thought like that, or that's where it could take me. So I knew that's where I needed to be. I knew that I was an alcoholic, but I thought that because I'd got that knowledge that I was an alcoholic and that I was going to meetings, and I was going to meetings up to 5 nights a week, you know, that it replaced my drinking during the week. I thought that that would fix me in itself.
Right.
And then I relapsed. I had a drink, you know, and it was off the back of an argument with somebody, because, you know, that's a trigger for me. In fact, to be honest, anything can be a trigger for me. You know, it could be, sun could be shining, and that's a trigger because I want to drink in, you know, I understand in the garden. But definitely emotions. You know, if I'm going through something, that would be my go-to. I would have a drink to make myself feel better. I would have a drink to put myself to sleep so I don't have to think about it. So when things happened in life, I was going to meetings, but I still picked up a drink because that was still my solution at that time. So I'd get 30 days. Sorry, go on. We're going to say
No,
something.
I was just going to say, so there was obviously something in that initial period. You were, I don't think it would be fair to sort of say you're paying lip service by just attending and putting your bum on the seat, because I'm sure you were doing more than that. But there was something didn't quite click, did it? And I know, I mean, I haven't picked up a drink in over 4 years, but I've come close. I've had alcohol in my hands twice, once with a family related argument, and once last summer at a very highly sort of stressful and anxious point at work. You know, it was a big golf tournament and we were sleeping on site in wet tents. We don't need to go, but it was at a point of really heightened anxiety, which almost there's sometimes you just can't beat it, can you? But did you almost get into a habit of attending AA, but you were relying on AA in a sense, but then you were still relying on alcohol as well for a period?
What it was, I see now when I look back, is that I wasn't ready. I didn't want to give up alcohol forever. I went and I thought, if I come and I start drinking for a few months, I'll be able to drink like a normal person. I'll be able to drink like my friend. You know, I would go and I'd reminisce about times when I'd got drunk and just done silly stuff years and years and years ago. I remember that time that I gave up drinking for 3 months and then I drank normal after that. You know, I'd think of that. So I wasn't ready. You know, I was thinking to myself, but what if, you know, but what about Christmas? But what about my birthday? Am I never going to be able to have a drink? And because that was there, I'd never got step 1 of the 12-step program. You know, and that is the foundation. I understand that now. You know, I absolutely had to concede that I was an alcoholic, you know, and that I was powerless over alcohol, and my life was unmanageable. And I was paying lip service to a certain extent because I was saying, I was saying those things, but I didn't truly believe it. I did think there might be a chance that I'd be able to drink again at some point.
Yeah.
So my experience is that, you know, those relapses that I had, for me, each and every time I had a drink, which was probably, I think it might be 4 occasions over that 18-month period, every time I had a drink, it was worse. Every single time it was worse. To the point, just unbelievably worse. You know, I went into a bar and I thought, I'll have 1 glass of wine.
Okay.
And they had flavoured gins. And I said, I'll have 1 of each. And he's like, what now? And I'm like, yeah, I'll have 1 of each now. And I had all the flavours. There must have been 4 drinks plus my glass of wine. And I was drinking like this. Just unbelievable behaviour. I'd never behaved like that before. And obviously then there was, what happened that night was just terrible. So it got worse and worse. But that's what I needed in my recovery now, I see, to show me I'll never be able to drink like a normal person because I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I can't drink normal.
Yeah, and I think what with me, admitting I'm an alcoholic, as you say, accepting I'm powerless where alcohol is involved. It's opened my eyes to some other sort of character traits and behavior traits that still exist in my life today. I'm over my buying too many pairs of trainers and spending too much money on things I don't need. But I went through a period of in early recovery. I was staying sober, but I was displaying addictive behavior in other areas. And that took me about probably 2 years to understand, and then another year to work on. I mean, I did, I'm sort of now I'm into my fifth year of sobriety. I'm sort of four years and 3 months sober, but I'm only now at a point where I understand addiction to a point. No one will ever fully understand addiction, so that should be off. But yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I could, for 3 years of sobriety, I could say I was a sober, fully in recover, I was sober, recovering alcoholic, but I was behaving in addictive ways within my life that weren't doing me too much harm. But it went to show me that I hadn't fully got my head round the disease. So let's sort of move into, you're now 18 months sober, Zoe. You're attending regular meetings, and is it okay to say that you live in a household of recovery now, don't you?
Yeah.
Does that work in perfect harmony, or does that throw up the odd battle? Funny question. I know
Yeah.
your husband is sober for longer than sort of me and you put together, isn't he? But
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
how does that work? Does it work well?
Yeah. It does in some respects, and it doesn't in others.
Yeah.
Definitely the beginning of our relationship, we would both say now, and we would both advise anybody coming into recovery, don't get into a relationship in early recovery.
And they do recommend that if you attend a meeting, don't they?
And my sponsor told me, don't do it. He's a lovely guy, but don't do it. But I was sold on him already. And, the reason she told me not to do it is because I wasn't emotionally ready. I didn't have emotional sobriety.
Yeah.
I kept reeling off arguments that we had. My response, my go-to was still to drink. His response was different. He'd been in the program for 11 years, not had a drink. Now his sobriety could have quite easily been mine, as in he could have lost those 11 years sobriety off the back of our relationship and the problems that it brought to us. But I could never get to his level of sobriety. So it was, there were problems there at first. But we worked through them. And I think the biggest thing really was that the longer that I stayed in recovery and worked with my sponsor and worked through my steps, I got a better understanding, which meant that those defects of character that you mentioned, one of my main defects was attention seeking. I need attention. And that can be really detrimental in a relationship, I don't feel like that nowadays. I don't feel like I need attention from other people, and I feel quite secure in myself and secure in my relationship. So our relationship at the moment, and since we've been married, we got married last year, since I've been sober, funnily enough, has been quite harmonious. The only time I would say that it causes, because he's 13 years now, I will mention things to him and he'll say, do you know what? You might as well just start sponsoring me, or will you take me through a book one of these days? Because I'm very active in terms of doing service in fellowship.
Yeah.
He goes to 1, maybe 2 meetings a week, but I've got service in a lot of different areas because I'm still really eager and motivated. I want to get the message out. I especially want to help ladies in recovery. So he likes that and he enjoys that and he supports me with that, but we are at different sort of on different pages, but we are both sober and we do support each other, I'd say.
I mean, I think, Zoe, that is almost a perfect place to sort of finish, really. I mean, the fact that just chatting to you for the period I have been to, I can see that you are, as you just described, you are happy, but you are content and you're comfortable within yourself, which is absolutely wonderful to see. And hopefully this little podcast that we're doing here can help other ladies in recovery. I mean, my story is a male one. I am a man. And in the episodes that I have put out, I've tended to chat with male guests. But I did record a podcast with a wonderful lady, Becca, over in Canada. So potentially, I don't know if you have Twitter, Zoe, but I could certainly put you in contact with Becca, and and there's another female voice that you could potentially work with in your sort of in that helping women in recovery, because as a man, I don't understand my wife very well at the best of times. So for me to suggest I could understand women in recovery would be daft. But you have been a wonderful guest. So before I say goodbye, I will just remind everyone that they can reach out to me at HWOM thepod@gmail.com. Just drop me an email. I will, if Zoe is happy to, I will share her details in the show notes. So any ladies, I'm sure any men listening to this, if you don't want to get in touch with boring old Stu here, you might want to get in touch with Zoe. I'm sure she would gladly offer some advice if she could. We have the Buy Me a Coffee. I'll link that in the show notes. We don't want to push that too much. And my mum's Walk for Cancer will be in there. Zoe, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You've been an absolutely wonderful guest. You were so honest with the email you shared to me in the build-up, and you've been wonderful. Anyone watching this, if we put this out as a video, I'm sure anyone watching it will view you as very relaxed and very content, and you've been smiley all the way through this interview. If we just put it out as an audio, I've just explained you as best I can for those listening. So before we say goodbye, is there anything you'd like to just promote, any points you'd like to bring up that I may have not touched on before we end this?
I think the message that I'd like to give out really is that if anybody is struggling, then to reach out to look for, there's various fellowships dealing with lots of different substances, not just alcohol.
Yeah.
And to reach out to look, and there is help there, and there is a solution. It's a 12-step solution for me, but there are solutions there for everybody.
Well said, Zoe. I won't say anything more on top of that. I will say thank you very much for joining me on Henry Weston's I'll Make the Podcast, and I look forward to chatting to you again, Zoe. Thanks you very much.
Thank you. Bye.